There is a forgotten key hidden between the lines of Solomon's story that most people have never heard about in church. It is not only about wisdom or wealth, but about a secret that opened the gates of prosperity and guaranteed peace for decades. Few realize that before receiving extraordinary gifts from God, Solomon had to make a decision that would change not only his future, but the destiny of an entire kingdom. And this decision brings a profound principle, later confirmed by the teachings of Napoleon Hill. Today, you will discover how this mystery can become the turning point in your life. A spiritual and practical code that separates those who merely dream of prosperity from those who truly live in abundance. Did you know that before Solomon became the wisest and wealthiest man of his time, he had to deal with something most people avoid? Cleansing. Not only a spiritual cleansing, but also a strategic one, involving people, decisions, and attitudes. It's like someone who dreams of having an organized home, but never gets rid of the old things taking up space. Solomon understood he could not reign in the midst of chaos. This detail of the story is fascinating because it shows that prosperity does not begin with accumulation, but with elimination. Just as a seed only grows when the soil is cleared of weeds that steal its nutrients, Solomon could only flourish because he was willing to remove what suffocated his destiny. Napoleon Hill taught the same truth. Before building wealth, one must clear the soil of the mind and of life. And this is the key that many ignore. True prosperity requires the courage to put things in order. Even when it means cutting ties, changing routines, or facing uncomfortable truths. And if you want to understand how this principle can transform your life, take a moment to like this video, leave your comment, and share it with someone who needs this message. What do you think comes first on the path to success? Gaining new things or eliminating what holds you back? This may sound like a simple question, but it hides one of the greatest secrets of prosperity. Many people believe accumulating possessions, contacts, or information is the first step. However, they carry burdens that keep them trapped even as they try to run toward their goals. Solomon shows us that before receiving wisdom and riches, he had to face what hindered his journey. It's like trying to fill a dirty glass with clean water. No matter how much you pour, the result is still murky. Life works the same way. If we don't remove what contaminates, nothing new can shine in its fullness. This reflection forces us to look in the mirror. Are we truly ready to receive prosperity? Or are we still living with habits, people, and beliefs that drain our energy? Success begins not with what we add, but with what we choose to leave behind. Picture an aging king, weary, his body weakened by years of battles and challenges. This was David, the man who had slain giants and conquered lands, but who now faced his own fragility against time. The throne was vulnerable, and the entire kingdom felt the tension. Who would inherit the power and keep the promise of continuity? Alive, this setting is not only historical, but symbolic. Each of us faces moments when our strength feels insufficient and the future uncertain. It is precisely in these moments that the greatest tests appear. How do we act when everything around us feels unstable? The people of Israel were watching closely, knowing that one wrong choice could mean chaos and destruction. This vulnerability of the throne teaches us an essential truth. Life always puts us through seasons where we must prepare the succession of our dreams. Strengthen what we will leave for the future, and not ignore the risks that arise in our weakest moments. It was in this context that Solomon's story began to take shape. While King David was still alive, frail and old, one of his sons made a bold move. Adonijah proclaimed himself king. Without waiting for his father's blessing, without seeking divine approval, he rushed ahead, driven by ambition. This act was like planting a seed of division in the heart of the people. He wanted power at any cost, even if it wasn't meant for him. This episode shows how ambition without purpose can turn into a threat. It's like trying to harvest fruit from a tree you didn't plant. It may look like success at first, but sooner or later the root reveals that it does not belong to you. Adonijah represents the kind of obstacle that arises when least expected. Sometimes within the family, sometimes within ourselves in the form of disordered desires. Adonijah's act offers a universal warning. The greatest threats don't always come from outside. Many times they are internal, impulses premature, desires and aimless cravings that put at risk what God has already prepared for our lives. And it was in the face of this silent danger that Solomon's story was first tested. When Adonijah tried to take the throne, two figures rose to change history: Bathsheba, Solomon's mother, and the prophet Nathan. Without these alliances, Solomon would never have become king. It was the courage of a mother united with the spiritual vision of a prophet that prevented injustice from prevailing. This union shows that even the greatest purposes need voices of support to be defended. This part of the story reveals an essential principle. No one achieves great victories alone. Even the most powerful kings needed counselors, mentors, and strategic allies. Napoleon Hill reinforces this truth when he speaks of the mastermind alliance. The idea that aligned minds create a power greater than any individual alone. Thus, Bathsheba and Nathan's intervention was not only political, but also a lesson in life strategy. If we reflect, we see that all of us have battles that require the presence of the right people by our side. It might be a friend who gives wise advice, a mentor who points the way, or even someone who quietly prays for us. Prosperity is not born in isolation, but in the power of connections aligned with purpose. Even weakened, with a body without vigor, David made a firm decision that would change the course of the kingdom. He ordered Solomon to be anointed as king. It was an act of authority, showing that even in his last moments of strength, he still carried clarity and discernment. This moment reveals that great destinies are not built only in youth, but also in the wisdom of the later journey. David's order was not just a political formality, it was the confirmation of a legacy. By anointing Solomon, he sealed a promise, showing that true leadership is passed on when someone decides, with courage, to set things in order before leaving. This firm decision, even in weakness, proves that a determined mind is more powerful than any tired body. In practice, this teaches us that there are times when we need to make definitive choices without hesitation. Choices that define the future and bring clarity to what was disputed. Just as David declared who would be king, we too must, at certain points in life, declare what will reign within us: fear or faith, doubt or purpose. Being anointed king did not automatically mean wealth or peace. For Solomon, the beginning of his reign was marked by intense challenges. The throne was unstable, internal threats still existed, and many questioned his ability to rule. The crown did not come ready with peace. It had to be earned. This detail reveals that prosperity requires more than titles. It requires foundation. Solomon had to prove he had the strength and vision to consolidate what he had received. And this is something everyone faces at some point in life. Winning something is not the end. It is just the beginning of the struggle to maintain it. A new job, a relationship, or even a change of habits. All of these must be sustained with discipline and clarity. Without that, any victory quickly slips away. This initial challenge of Solomon is a powerful metaphor. It shows that before reaping abundance, it is necessary to stabilize the ground and eliminate what could compromise. The future prosperity is not luck, it is daily construction. And it was in this testing ground that Solomon began shaping his true greatness. The first obstacle Solomon had to face was his own brother Adonijah. His ambition had not disappeared with Solomon's anointing. On the contrary, he continued seeking ways to usurp the throne. This situation mirrors how, many times, the greatest threats to our prosperity are not far away, but close, disguised in family ties or intimate relationships. Solomon realized he could not build his reign without resolving this issue. Adonijah's presence was like a shadow that could grow and ruin everything. So, with firmness, Solomon decided to remove this risk. It was not only a political gesture, but also a symbolic one. To prosper, one must have the courage to deal with what hides inside one's own home. This episode brings a practical reflection. How often do we let closeness blind us to real threats? It might be an old habit, a toxic slight, friendship, or even a thought that insists on sabotaging us. Just as Solomon confronted Adonijah, we too must face what prevents us from moving forward, even when it hurts. Napoleon Hill teaches that the starting point of all achievement is having a definite purpose. Without this clarity, anyone will get lost along the way, no matter how much talent they have. Solomon had a firm purpose: to govern with justice and to build the temple of God. This gave direction to each of his decisions, providing focus where there could have been only confusion. A definite purpose works like a map in the fog. Without it, life is like sailing a boat without a rudder. The wind may blow in many directions, but you never truly arrive anywhere. Solomon knew exactly where he wanted to lead the kingdom, and that's why he had the strength to face adversaries, set priorities, and keep the discipline required for prosperity. In practical life, this means that each of us must stop and ask, what is my true purpose right now? When that answer becomes clear, even obstacles gain meaning because they cease to be stones in the path and become steps toward destiny. This was what made Solomon more than a king, a leader guided by a vision greater than himself. Joab was a man of great military experience, a general who had faithfully served alongside David in many battles. Yet his history was marked by blood and betrayal. He represented a silent danger to Solomon's reign, for his loyalty was divided. Solomon understood he could not build peace on an unstable foundation. This episode reveals a harsh but necessary lesson. Not all experience is the same as trust. Sometimes people with incredible skills carry intentions that are not aligned with our purpose. Joab knew how to fight wars, but he did not know how to be loyal. And leadership that seeks prosperity cannot rest on cracked pillars. This truth applies to our daily lives as well. How many times do we cling to people, ideas, or habits that worked in the past but no longer serve the future we want? Solomon had to act firmly against Joab, and this inspires us to look around and ask, am I surrounded by loyalty or only by competence without heart? Napoleon Hill stated that indecision destroys more dreams than failure itself. And Solomon demonstrated this when he dealt with Joab. He did not hesitate. He acted firmly, even knowing he might be criticized or misunderstood. The secret was in understanding that every delay in making a decision gave more room for the enemy to grow. The speed of a decision does not mean acting recklessly, but rather with clarity. Those who know where they are going are not paralyzed by alternatives. Solomon had a purpose, and that purpose guided him. So when threats arose, he did not hide behind excuses or delays. He did what was necessary to protect his future. In practical life, this reminds us of the big and small decisions we postpone: changing a habit, ending a partnership, investing in something new, or even asking for forgiveness. The time wasted and indecision is energy stolen from progress. Solomon shows us that when the heart is aligned with purpose, decisions become not only quick, but liberating. Shimei was a man who had already shown his rebellious heart against David, Solomon's father. Even so, the new king chose to give him a chance, setting clear limits for him to remain in peace. But disobedience soon revealed Shimei's true nature. This episode shows that sooner or later, a person's character will be exposed, no matter how much they try to hide it. At first, Solomon was patient, but he also knew when trust no longer made sense. Shammai's rebellion could not coexist with the order Solomon sought to establish in the kingdom. Tolerance has value, but when disobedience persists, authority must act. Keeping someone who refuses to respect limits is opening the door to instability. This experience invites us to reflect: how often do we insist on giving second chances to situations, habits, or people that have repeatedly shown they are not aligned with our growth? Solomon teaches us that it is wise to extend a hand, but it is even wiser to know when to step back and impose order. Napoleon Hill teaches that before wealth comes order. Solomon understood this deeply. Power would mean nothing without establishing a solid structure in his kingdom. He began by organizing functions, strengthening alliances, and placing each person in the right position. Prosperity is not born from improvisation, but from the discipline of organizing what one already has. Organization is like the foundation of a house. Without it, any structure collapses at the first strong wind. Solomon knew his mission was greater than ruling. He had to leave a legacy. That is why he eliminated disorder and built a base of trust where people could rest in peace and security. This principle also applies to our financial, emotional, and spiritual lives. Many times we ask for more abundance, but we do not take care of what is already in our hands. To organize is to value. It is tidying the house before receiving visitors. It is planning before spending. Prosperity does not arrive in chaotic environments, but in places prepared for it. After bringing order to the kingdom, Solomon made a gesture that revealed the true essence of his greatness. Instead of asking for wealth, vengeance, or recognition, he lifted his voice to God and asked for wisdom. This choice is profoundly revealing, because it shows that his priority was not gold, but the ability to discern between right and wrong. That request completely transformed his story. God was so pleased with Solomon's attitude that he not only gave him wisdom, but also added wealth and honor as a result. It was as if the key to prosperity was hidden in what we ask for first. When we seek what is eternal, what is temporary becomes a natural addition. This spiritual turning point teaches us that the greatest treasure is not in accumulating things, but in the clarity of mind and depth of heart. When the focus is on wisdom, life aligns in surprising ways, and everything that once seemed unreachable begins to manifest naturally. Napoleon Hill teaches that faith is not merely a feeling, but a creative force. Solomon understood this when he asked God for wisdom. He believed he would receive it, and his faith shaped reality. It was not a vague hope, but a practical confidence rooted in his purpose. Applied faith becomes the fuel for great transformations. Solomon did not just ask, he believed he would be answered. And it was this faith that opened the doors for God to give him not only wisdom, but also wealth and peace. Hill confirms this truth by saying that faith is the basis of all lasting achievement. Where there is no faith, there is not enough energy to sustain a dream. In anyone's life, applied faith works as a bridge between the invisible and the invisible. It is the certainty that, even without seeing immediate results, what is planted in the heart will bloom in due time. Solomon proved that when one trusts fully, the fruits come beyond what is asked or imagined. After facing internal threats and reorganizing the kingdom, Solomon reaped the fruits of his courage. The result was a reign marked by 40 years of peace, prosperity, and abundance. This stability did not come by chance. It was the direct consequence of the cleansing he carried out before pursuing growth. Peace is not the absence of conflict, but the order achieved after firm decisions. This time of prosperity was so remarkable that other kings came from afar to hear Solomon's wisdom. He became a worldwide reference for wealth and balance because he had built his foundation with discipline and faith. It was not just gold or power. It was the example that a life organized and guided by wisdom produces extraordinary results. This consequence shows us that prosperity is not about momentary achievements, but about lasting legacies. When we remove what hinders and plant what builds, the harvest is abundant and solid. Solomon experienced this, and his story crosses centuries, to remind us that true peace is born from inner order and the courage to eliminate what does not serve. The story of Solomon makes one truth clear: before wealth comes cleansing. He showed that prosperity does not arise from improvisation, but from the discipline of removing what weakens. First comes order, then growth. First comes discipline, then abundance. This is the path that transforms any life into fertile ground for prosperity. This lesson also reveals that it is useless to accumulate achievements if the foundation is disorganized. It is like trying to fill a cracked vessel. No matter how much you pour inside, everything leaks out. Solomon understood he had to seal the cracks before receiving the new wine of prosperity. The greatness he lived was the result of this applied wisdom. This is the key Napoleon Hill also pointed out: eliminate distractions, align with purpose, and live in discipline. Success does not begin when one receives more, but when one learns to better manage what is already in hand. That is the preparation that opens the way to a solid, abundant future. When we look at Solomon's story, we realize it is not only about a distant king, but about each of us. We all carry areas that need cleansing before moving into a life of prosperity. It may be a habit that drains energy, a relationship that weakens us, or even thoughts that silently sabotage our dreams. This reflection is not a theoretical exercise, but a call to inner honesty. Prosperity does not begin with numbers, but with intimate decisions. Asking yourself, what do I need to eliminate today to make room for the new, is a practical step anyone can take. That is how the process of preparation for abundance begins. This cleansing does not have to be radical overnight. Many times, it begins with small gestures: organizing finances, saying no to what does not add value, choosing better company. Just as Solomon consolidated his throne with firm decisions, we too can consolidate our lives with conscious choices that create space for true prosperity to flourish. Solomon proves with his own life that there is no true prosperity without cleansing. He did not begin his reign by amassing wealth, but by eliminating threats and establishing order. Napoleon Hill confirms this same truth. Success is not built only with achievements, but mainly with the courage to eliminate everything that sabotages purpose. This combination of spiritual wisdom and practical discipline is the essence of an abundant life. Prosperity is not an instant miracle, but a conscious process of alignment. Solomon asked for wisdom, and from it, he received everything many people seek first: peace, wealth, and honor. This teaches us that when we prioritize what is eternal, the temporary becomes a natural result. Solomon's legacy crosses centuries because it shows an unchanging principle. Lasting growth comes only when there is courage to remove what destroys. That is the key that opens the doors to true abundance. And with every decision we make in this direction, we get closer to the same peace and prosperity that marked his reign. Solomon's story is not just to be admired, but to be applied. That is why I invite you to leave in the comments a declaration of conscious choice. I choose to live with wisdom and peace. Write this and also share what you thought of King Solomon's attitude when facing the challenges before him. When you declare something in words, you strengthen within yourself the decision to live according to that purpose. It is a simple but powerful act because it transforms reflection into action. Just as Solomon declared his path through firm decisions, you too can take that step today. And remember, every comment, every like, and every share is a way of spreading wisdom and inspiring others to awaken to this transformative principle. So participate, write your phrase, and be part of this chain of prosperity and clarity. If Solomon's story teaches us anything, it is that true prosperity begins within us. It is not only about external wealth, but about living deeply with clarity and wisdom to transform our reality. When we cleanse what does not serve us, when we choose discipline before abundance, we'll open space for the extraordinary to flourish in our lives. So, if this video spoke to your heart, like, share, and subscribe to the channel. The world needs awakened people, and perhaps you are one of them. Your participation here helps spread this message and build a community of people committed to wisdom and prosperity. And tell me in the comments, I choose to live with wisdom and peace. Declare this in words, strengthen your decision, and inspire others to do the same. Remember, your life can be a living testimony that faith, discipline, and order open the doors to prosperity that lasts for generations.